Welcome to People Like You. Celebrate Recovery is tremendously impactful in helping people overcome obstacles in their lives through the power of Christ. State Representative David Meekins is here today to talk about the ministry and how you and your church can get involved, so don't go away.
What can I do to let people know that God has changed my life and He can change yours as well? And there are no such things as hopeless people with our great God. He can change anybody, and He wants to start today.
Welcome back. Celebrate Recovery is an organization that offers freedom from hurts, habits, and hang-ups through the power of Jesus Christ. With more than 25,000 programs underway within churches worldwide, State Representative David Meekins is here to talk about this life-changing ministry, and we're so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here and tell you about Celebrate Recovery.
Please do.
I will. It was started over 23 years ago by John Baker and Rick Warren at Saddleback Church. John was clean, had been going through AA, but he knew that he wanted to have a faith-based, Christ-based recovery program. He made a suggestion to Rick, and Rick said, go ahead, and it's been off and running ever since. It is now a national and international ministry, and we are just growing by leaps and bounds, and we're grateful for the ministry that God has brought to us.
And it is really effective in churches.
It is, and that is our base of operation because we acknowledge that Jesus Christ is our ultimate higher power, and this then gives the person that is coming out of their hurts and their habit a community to come back to and a place to connect then when they're in their growth and in their recovery.
And I know that it's very effective in our church and has been expanding, and it serves several areas which we'll get into.
Correct.
But is it like a 12-step program, or tell us exactly how it works?
It is. We have a large group meeting at our church on Fridays, and then out of that we then break into gender-specific and topic-specific small group open share meetings for an hour where we can share in confidence. And then our ultimate goal is to get everyone through the 12-step program. It's 12 steps and they're biblical comparisons.
Perfect.
And that's what we like to emphasize.
So, when you think Celebrate Recovery and you talk about breaking habits, often you'll think of addictions, alcohol, drug potentially. But I think it's kind of important to note here that this program actually helps with all kinds of habits, all kinds of addictions.
Correct. I've never put a drug in my body. I've probably only had a couple times that I've had too much to drink, but I am a workaholic. I am compulsive. I overspend, I overwork, I overcommit. What about the person that's gone through the divorce that's feeling rejected? What about the codependent? What about the person like myself that grew up with shame and guilt? Those who are victims of sexual abuse that wasn't their fault, and yet they carry this burden, this shame, and they don't think anyone cares. They have to take this to the grave with them. That's what we want to provide, a place, a safe place where they can come, they can talk about these issues with other men and women who may have a similar issue, but basically what it is, Debbie, we are all broken inside, and something is broken that only Jesus can fix. And that's why I love Celebrate Recovery.
Right, and I know many people who've been through the program, and you can see the difference in their demeanor and just even in the way they communicate. So this is for you minister to adults, young people.
We now have ministries starting with children, 6 to 12. We call it Celebration Place. It's easier to train a child and help them than it is to fix an adult. So we take them through on the same things we deal with, anger, fear, rejection, but we deal with the lessons on their level. We now have a program called The Landing, which is designed for teens, and it deals with the same issues with them. And both of them are very, very successful, having a great impact on the lives of those students.
Okay, so this could be a child that's maybe been through some kind of an abusive situation, but not necessarily. Someone who may be dealing with, as you say, anger.
Correct. They did not want and do not want to grow up in a family where mom and dad maybe had addictive personalities, rage, anger, alcohol, drugs. And so they're the fallout from that. So now mom and dad are getting healthy, but the kids carried some of the baggage. They don't know how to handle life because they always saw mom and dad acting out in inappropriate ways. So now we're helping them learn how to handle life and the struggles that it brings, both for kids 6 to 12 in Celebration Place, and then for teens in the Landing, and both of them are bringing great results.
All right, and you are on staff at the Bridge in Santa Rosa.
Correct.
Which is relatively new church in the area.
Correct.
And tell me, is the program doing well there?
It is doing very well. We have, I've been involved with Celebrate Recovery there in Santa Rosa for over 10 years, and we've just seen God change lives. What happens is then, as men and women, their lives are changed, families are put back together, they're involved in the local church, their kids are there, and as they grow up, then they also learn and find a place to serve. The 12th step, the 8th principle is, as a result of this, we want to give back. So that's one of the things we emphasize. What can I do to let people know that God has changed my life and He can change yours as well? And there are no such things as hopeless people with our great God. He can change anybody, and He wants to start today.
And interesting that you would bring up the point, for instance, even for instance, the compulsive nature.
Sure.
How, you know, many of us survive in the world and we take our personalities into it, and in some ways they're very useful, but when you get too far into some of these areas, they can be very detrimental to your life. So young, learning how to deal with compulsiveness is really a gift if the church provides that option for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think of the shame, the guilt, the bullying, the sexual abuse that happens all the way down to very, very young, the addictions that kids are facing now, and the exposure to them is at such an earlier and earlier age. I mean, and you talk to somebody and they're 20 and they say, yeah, I haven't been clean for 15 years. And you go, wow, you started way young. And they go, I didn't know anything else to do.
Right.
I had
well, more
pain
when
that
we
I
get
didn't know how
back,
to
and
deal
you
with.
brought someone with you. Angela
sure
will be with us.
did.
She's actually been through the program, and
She has.
Okay, so we get to talk to her too.
Looking
When
forward
we
to
come
it.
back, Angela will give her testimony of healing. Later on, David will share his own story of freedom through Celebrate Recovery. So don't go away.
There's just something about being transparent in a small group that things just happen. God takes over because we show up.
Welcome back. Celebrate Recovery has been changing lives through Christ for over 20 years. Angela Isola joins us today to share her story, and I really appreciate you being here as well.
Thanks for having me.
So how long have you been involved with Celebrate Recovery?
I have been involved in Celebrate Recovery for about 3.5 years now.
So what is your story?
I have been sober for 12 years in November of 2014, and I did the 12 steps through AA, and I found after about a year or two that I was still angry, full of resentment, I had control issues, and I had a lot of relationship issues. And it was then that I crawled into my church, still my church today, Calvary Chapel, Petaluma, and I met and was saved by Jesus Christ. And it was then that my life completely changed, as we all know when that happens.
When that happens.
My life was transformed, and I dove into Bible study. I just dove into God's Word, and I learned as much as I could about God. But after a couple of years and being in relationship with people in the church, I realized that we all have hurts, hang-ups, and habits. And I knew that the 12 steps work because the 12 steps are biblically founded. They were founded by a group of men in a Bible study in 1930. And so I knew that those steps work. And so I prayed and I sought the Lord. I said, what can we do to bring this to the church? And then I found Celebrate Recovery, and I found it up in Santa Rosa through David Meekin's church, and we prayed, and I knew a few people in recovery, and we started Celebrate Recovery Petaluma, and we started a citywide Celebrate Recovery. And we have 8 churches that are involved. We have people from NA, FA, AA that come, and they get to do the steps with Jesus.
Wow.
And it is so powerful. I can't even begin to explain how it's changed my life. Even after doing the steps in AA, coming to know the Lord, and then I go and do Celebrate Recovery 12 steps, and I deal with my anger and my relationship issues. And I'm still struggling, and I still get to show up and say, you know what, today I'm struggling, and that's okay. And there's just something about being transparent in a small group that things just happen. God takes over because we show up.
Do you mind if I ask you a couple more questions in
Sure.
regards to your own situation?
Yeah.
Anger.
Yeah.
What did it look like?
Oh, it manifests itself in so many ways. Control, rage in my marriage, just controlling people, in that way. So thinking that...
So you would just blast out?
Yeah.
And, okay.
Yeah.
For just because they made you uncomfortable?
Yeah. I was uncomfortable, and I was
And that was
trying
it?
to control them.
You're going to know about it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so how do you deal with that now? Obviously you have bad days. There are days that you just, but how do you...
It doesn't come on like it used to. It just doesn't happen like it used to. Jesus changed me, and I can't really explain it other than doing the steps. And the steps are quite simple. It's really about restoring relationship, because God created us for a relationship. And doing the steps is as simple as knowing that I don't have control. I'm powerless over this hurt, hang up, or habit. I come to believe that a power greater than myself can restore me to sanity, right?
Yes.
I give my life to Christ. I then do a self-examination of my life and what I've done. I confess that to another human being and God. And then I ask God to remove my character defects that get in the way of my relationship with Him and others. And then I make amends to people I've hurt, and I offer forgiveness to those who have hurt me.
Which is hard.
Yeah, and that's steps 8 and 9. And then 10, 11, and 12 is really just doing all that all over again on a daily basis, and then giving back. How can I give back to someone else? And that's what the 12 steps is all about. And it's just so powerful, and everyone could use it.
So relationally, how are you?
Oh my gosh, my marriage has never been better.
How long have you been married?
We celebrate 20 years next year. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
yeah.
So you didn't leave the marriage. You
We
changed.
tried.
Okay. All right.
But
yes.
God had another
Yes.
plan.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
once you worked out these anger issues and the control issues, and I'm going to guess maybe your husband had some areas as well.
Yeah.
Then your marriage was restored through Christ.
Yeah. And we pray together every morning. We don't go a day without praying together. We open God's Word together. It's amazing what Jesus does.
Was it difficult? First of all, I would imagine two things. One is admitting there's something wrong, and then the other would be, were you afraid to admit it? Were you afraid that you'd be found out? Were you
All of that.
Were you afraid when you got angry and couldn't control it?
Yeah, all of that. It takes great humility to admit that we're wrong. It also takes a great cloud of denial to be lifted. Some of us walk around with just denial that we even have a problem. It's like, I'm managing just fine. But that's in step 1, it says admitting that that I don't have control and that my life is unmanageable. See, there's 2 parts to it. We have to admit that we actually have unmanageability in our lives. And yeah, it is difficult to, I think what it is too is we realize that there's a problem, but then taking that next step to admit it is just as hard. And then I always say 95% of the battle is showing up. Showing up, walking through those doors is so difficult, and working on it. It takes work to work through these steps.
Well, Angela, when we return, will you tell us how we can work on it and get involved with the organization in Petaluma and some of the
Absolutely.
others? And David, we're going to hear about some of your testimony too when we return, right?
Great.
Appreciate you both being so open to share your stories for us. More when we return.
If I tell you my story, maybe it will help you. And what I'm asking you is then, will you give me the privilege of learning your story
And
so we
help
can
you.
grow together?
Welcome back. David, you were a pastor for 37 years. So presumably during that time you were dealing with issues that you needed to have help with.
I did. I dealt with a lot of guilt and shame. It was a part of my upbringing. And as a pastor, I just didn't have anybody that I could share with.
And that's the point I want to, because pastors can sometimes not necessarily be isolated, but you're the one that's supposed to be in charge. You're the one that's supposed to know what you're doing. Often women in a household, or, you feel like you have to be the one that has the answers. And so, there's that control issue there. But with a pastor's situation, if you go to someone, then they all of a sudden know that you may be fallible. There may be something.
I am fallible. My name is David, and I struggle with compulsive behaviors. And I realized then that I didn't have some of the tools. I had the biblical knowledge, but I didn't have some of the tools that I needed, how to put it together in a distinct plan to make my life work. I did not have safe people that I could share this with. And also because the other pastors around me, they did not feel comfortable sharing their stuff. So we have a program now called CPR, Celebrate Pastors Recovery, where we can sit and talk with each other and share those burdens, because we have them. The anger issues, the moral problems, the financial struggles, the difficulties at home, and we need help. And Jesus gives us that help. And being in community, which is what the church is, being in community and then in community with other believers, especially pastors who we can relate to each other, man, there is nothing healthier than to be able to come in with a group of men and dump your junk on the table, and they accept you and love you, and we help each other grow.
How does it play out as a pastor in a church, compulsive behavior? Was it control? Was it, how did it?
My mantra was, if some is good, a whole lot more is better. And if I could just keep all the plates spinning, if I could just keep going fast and fast and fast, I didn't have to deal with the issues of what was broken inside my life. And I remember flopping in the bed.
What was broken?
Relationships, not connecting with people. I had to keep the mask up. I couldn't be vulnerable. I couldn't let people inside of my life and let them know what was going on.
You didn't think they'd like you, or what was the deal?
No, it was just that many of them were not trained and or able to accept it. I've had people, when I've shared something, I go, well, I'm really hurting right now. And they look right at you and go, oh, okay, bye, and walk off. So that's what Celebrate Recovery does in the local church. We are equipping people to be able to help us as we work the steps, as we work through our guilt, as we offer forgiveness, as we get rid of the shame, and we welcome and have, this is a community we want you to come to be a part of. We know rejection, we know shame, and we speak forgiveness, and we want to help you on that journey.
All right, and it's a safe place. So let's say somebody's watching and they don't attend your church, they don't attend a church, but they are struggling with a behavior that they need, addiction.
Correct.
So day one, can I just walk in?
Yes. You can come in at any time, because what we're dealing with is the core issue of what's broken inside of David. Okay? I wanted to cover up, I wanted to hide. So what's broken inside of me that only Jesus can fix, and he is my ultimate higher power. That's where we start, and we just say, welcome to the group.
Okay, so you're a pastor. How did you walk into a Celebrate Recovery group? How did it happen with you?
I had been, in '85, I began my journey, and then a friend and I started talking about it, and we went and visited a Celebrate Recovery in Santa Cruz. We went down there 2 or 3 times, and we just couldn't let go of it, and we came back and we started right away, and we've been going for 10 years now, and I've enjoyed every day of it. The journey is just exciting. God is in the people changing business, and I love being there.
What's different with you now than prior to, give me an instance. How are you now versus then?
I think the transparency and the control. I'll share my junk with anybody. It doesn't bother me. I don't share all the gory details, but I will let people know, my name's David, I'm a broken man. Especially like with pornography, my buddies go, what's the matter, can't you handle that, Meekins? And I look right at them and I go, no, I can't. And you know what, neither can you. And so I'm really blunt, I'm very honest, and if you want to know about it, I'll tell you about it. James said, confess your faults to one another so that you can be healed. If we want a healthy community inside the church and outside the church, we have to provide an environment where people can come in, as we say, and confess and dump their junk.
And Angela, what you shared today too, kind of dovetailing on that, the fact that in the Petaluma area, it's kind of a joint program.
Yeah, we are very fortunate. We have approximately 8 to 10 churches that are represented at our Celebrate Recovery. It's citywide. And so it's not just one church, it's like 8 to 10. I say that because it varies. And then we have people that come from AA, FA, NA, different secular recovery groups. Currently we meet at 16 5th Street, which is downtown Petaluma, and it's what used to be called Open Door, but it's now called North Bay Revival Center. And that's where we currently meet, but we are busting out of the seams, and we really want to have provide daycare, or the daycare in addition to the
Celebration Place.
Celebration Place and the landing. We're super excited about offering the 12 steps to the kids and to the teens in our community. And we actually have some pastors that are starting a 12-step group in Petaluma. So I'm praying that that will be amazing.
I also want to make it clear, you're not joining a club, you're not joining a group, there's nothing expected of you. You can come, you can go. It's truly a program designed to help. And to be bursting at the seams would mean the program is effective.
Yeah, we need more rooms for the groups to meet. So.
Okay, and then if a church is interested in starting the program, what's, again, unique, a church may feel like they're not large enough to be able to handle this on their own, so 2 or 3 can work together.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thanks for both being with us today. For more information about Celebrate Recovery and to find local meetings in your community, visit celebraterecovery.com or ktln.tv. Remember that KTLN is a donor-supported ministry. Programs like this one are made possible through your support. Thanks for being with us, and join us again next week.